Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Spring is often a time for new beginnings. Flowers start to grow, baby animals are born, and the weather gets warmer after winter. Many people feel happy and full of hope. Easter often comes during this beautiful season. For many, it feels like a fresh start. Easter is the most important and oldest festival in the Christian year. Christians celebrate it all over the world. It is a very special time when Christians remember and celebrate an amazing event. They celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. This means they believe Jesus came back to life after he died. The Christian holy book, the New Testament, tells the story of Easter. Jesus died by crucifixion, ordered by the Romans. This happened in Jerusalem around the year 30 AD. After his death, his body was placed in a tomb. But on the third day, Christians believe Jesus rose from the dead. This resurrection is the most important belief for Christians. Because Christians believe Jesus came back to life, Easter is a time of great joy and hope. It is the happy end to the story of Jesus' suffering and death. It shows believers that life is stronger than death. Easter brings a message of new life, forgiveness, and a future with God. It is a very happy celebration. Easter is a very old Christian holiday, celebrated since the early days of the Church. It has strong connections to the Jewish festival of Passover. Jesus' death and resurrection happened during the week of Passover. In many languages, like Greek and Latin, the word for Easter is Pascha. This word comes from Pesach, the Hebrew name for Passover. The English name Easter is different and might be linked to an old spring festival. Today, Christians and many other people celebrate Easter in different ways. There are special church services, sometimes starting late at night or early in the morning. Families often share festive meals. Common traditions include decorating Easter eggs, which can represent the empty tomb or new life, and stories about the Easter bunny bringing gifts. Easter is a mix of deep religious meaning and popular customs. We invite you to learn more about this important holiday's history and meaning. 2. What Easter means. Easter is the most important time in the Christian year. It celebrates something truly central to the Christian faith, Jesus Christ coming back to life after his death. The New Testament books tell this story. They say Jesus was killed by crucifixion by the Romans around the year 30 AD. He was buried in a tomb. But on the third day after his death, he rose from the dead. This amazing event is called the resurrection. Believing in the resurrection of Jesus is the core, the very heart of Christianity. Easter did not start in isolation. It has strong links to the Jewish festival of Passover. Passover is an important Jewish holiday that remembers the story in the Old Testament when God freed the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. The Gospels, the first 4 books of the New Testament, tell us that Jesus' final days, his death, and his resurrection all happened during the week of the Passover festival in Jerusalem. The connection is very clear through the Last Supper. This was the final meal Jesus shared with his disciples before he was arrested and killed. According to the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, this meal was a Passover Seder. During this meal, Jesus took the traditional Passover bread and wine and gave them a powerful new meaning for his followers. He identified the bread with his body, which would be sacrificed. He identified the cup of wine with his blood, which would seal a new agreement or covenant between God and people. He was preparing his disciples for his death. Because of this, Christians see Jesus as the Passover lamb. The Apostle Paul wrote about this in his first epistle to the Corinthians. He said, "For Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed." In the original Passover story, each family sacrificed a lamb. Paul and other Christians understood Jesus' death as the ultimate sacrifice, one made to save people from sin. So, what does Easter mean for Christians today? It means victory over death and sin. Because they believe Jesus rose again, Easter is a time filled with great hope and joy. It shows that death is not the final end. The resurrection promises new life. Christian belief holds that through faith in Jesus, people can be spiritually reborn. The first epistle of Peter says God gives believers a new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. They can start a new way of life now and have the promise of eternal salvation. They hope to live with God forever in heaven. Easter celebrates this new life and the living hope that the resurrection brings. 3. The first Easter parties. The first followers of Jesus started celebrating Easter very early in Christian history. We know this because the books in the New Testament, called the Gospels, say that Jesus died and came back to life during the week of the Jewish festival of Passover. Because of this strong connection, the first Christians planned their Easter celebration around the time of Passover. These early Easter parties were focused on remembering two main things: the death of Jesus and his resurrection when he came back to life 3 days later. This event was, and still is, the most important belief for Christians. It gave them hope and showed them God's power. How did they celebrate? They probably remembered the Last Supper. This was the final meal Jesus shared with his disciples, his closest friends, before he died. During that meal, Jesus gave them bread and wine, telling them it was like his body and blood. So the first Christians likely gathered together to share a special meal. This meal helped them remember Jesus' sacrifice and celebrate his return to life. We have proof that Easter was an important festival by the middle of the 2nd century. It was not a new holiday then. People already knew about it and celebrated it. One piece of proof comes from an early Christian writer named Melito of Sardis. Around the year 150, he wrote a special Easter speech or text. This is often called a Paschal homily. Paschal means related to Passover or Easter. Melito's writing talks about Easter like it is a normal and important part of Christian life. Around the same time, Christians also started having special days to remember martyrs. Martyrs were people who died for their beliefs. These martyr days usually had fixed dates on the normal calendar we use, which follows the sun. But the date for Easter was different. It was decided using the local Jewish calendar, which follows the moon and the sun. This way of choosing the date shows that Easter celebrations began in the earliest times of Christianity, when it was still very closely linked to Jewish traditions. These first Easter parties were simple but full of meaning, remembering the events that gave Christians their hope. 4. Finding the Easter date. Why does Easter happen on a different date every year? It is not like Christmas, which is always on December 25th. Easter is a movable feast. This means its date moves. It is not fixed in our normal calendar, which follows the sun. Instead, its date uses a special calendar based on the moon and the sun. In the early days of Christianity, this caused some problems. Not all Christians celebrated Easter on the same day. This led to disagreements. One big argument was called the Quartodeciman controversy. The word Quartodeciman comes from a word meaning 14th. Some early Christians, called Quartodecimans, celebrated Easter on the 14th day of the Jewish month of Nisan. This was the date of the Jewish Passover. They celebrated on this date no matter which day of the week it was. They believed this was the correct way. A famous church leader named Polycarp followed this way. He was the bishop of Smyrna. It was said he learned from John the Apostle. Polycarp traveled to Rome to talk about this with the bishop of Rome, whose name was Anicetus. They could not agree, but they stayed friends and respected each other's ways. But later, another bishop of Rome named Victor wanted everyone to celebrate Easter only on a Sunday. He did not like the Quartodeciman way. Around the year 190, he tried to make the churches in Asia change. Polycrates, a bishop from Ephesus, wrote to Victor. He wrote that their way was very old and they should not change it. Victor threatened to cut them off from the church, but other leaders like Bishop Irenaeus asked him to be more tolerant, like Anicetus was before him. The situation became calm again, but the problem of different dates did not go away. Another issue came up later. At that time, many Christians asked their Jewish neighbors when the month of Nisan would start. This helped them find the date for Easter. But by the 3rd century, some Christians were not happy with this. They complained that sometimes the Jewish calculation placed Passover before the spring equinox, the first day of spring. But Christians believed Easter must come after the start of spring. They felt that using the Jewish calculation sometimes led to the wrong date. So, some Christians started trying to calculate the date without asking their Jewish neighbors. These disagreements about the date were a big reason why the Roman Emperor Constantine called a large meeting of church leaders. This meeting was the First Council of Nicaea in the year 325 AD. The leaders came together to agree on important church rules. Fixing the date of Easter was one main reason for the meeting. The council wanted all Christians everywhere to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus on the same day. They decided that Christians should stop using the Jewish calendar date for Passover to find Easter. Instead, they should calculate the date independently. The council agreed on a rule for everyone to follow. The rule was, Easter should be celebrated on the first Sunday after the first full moon that happens on or after the spring equinox. The council decided that the churches of Rome and Alexandria had a good method for this calculation. Alexandria, a city in Egypt, was especially known for its skill in calendar calculations. It had an ancient science for the computation. This rule from the Council of Nicaea aimed to unite all Christians in celebrating Easter together. It made sure Easter was always on a Sunday and always after the beginning of spring. 5. Why Easter dates change. You know that Easter Sunday is not on the same date every year. But how do people find the date? It is not simple. The date depends on the sun and the moon. This uses a special type of calendar called a lunisolar calendar. The basic rule decided a long time ago at the First Council of Nicaea is that Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon that happens on or after the spring equinox. But the Church uses special rules to find these dates. First, the spring equinox for Easter is always March 21st. This is a fixed date used by the Church. The real spring equinox, when day and night are almost equal, can happen on March 19th, 20th, or 21st, but for Easter calculations, March 21st is always used. Second, the full moon used for Easter is called the Paschal full moon. This is not always the same day as the full moon you see in the sky. It is calculated using Church rules. It is the 14th day of a special Church lunar month. This Paschal full moon must happen on or after March 21st. So, Easter Sunday is the Sunday after this Paschal full moon. Because of these rules, Easter in Western churches always happens on a Sunday between March 22nd and April 25th. But why do different churches sometimes celebrate Easter on different dates? This happens because they use different calendars. Most Western Christian churches use the Gregorian calendar. This is the calendar most people use today. Eastern Orthodox Christian churches use the older Julian calendar to find the date for Easter. The Julian calendar is different from the Gregorian calendar. Today, the Julian calendar is 13 days behind the Gregorian calendar. This means that when the Julian calendar says March 21st, the date for the equinox, it is already April 3rd on the Gregorian calendar. Because Eastern Orthodox churches start their calculation from a later date, using the Julian March 21st, and use slightly different moon calculations based on the Julian calendar, their date for Easter is usually different from the Western date. Often, Orthodox Easter is 1 week or even more than a month later. For example, in 2024, Western Easter was on March 31st, but Eastern Orthodox Easter was on May 5th. Orthodox Easter can fall between April 4th and May 8th on the Gregorian calendar. Sometimes the dates are the same. In 2025, both Western and Eastern Easter will be on April 20th. Some places try to celebrate together. On the Greek island of Syros, Catholics celebrate Easter on the Orthodox date. In Finland, Orthodox Christians celebrate Easter on the Western date. For many years, people have talked about finding one single date for Easter for all Christians. There have been meetings and suggestions. In 1997, the World Council of Churches suggested using modern science to find the date based on the real equinox and full moon over Jerusalem. In recent years, church leaders have talked again about finding a common date. Maybe an agreement can happen around the year 2025, which is 1,700 years after the First Council of Nicaea. 6. Getting ready for Easter. In Western Christianity, people get ready for Easter during a time called Lent. Lent is a special period that lasts for 40 days. It starts on a day called Ash Wednesday. During Lent, many Christians do things like fasting. Fasting means eating less food or stopping eating certain foods. They also spend more time praying. Lent is a time to think about Jesus and prepare hearts for Easter. The 40 days of Lent do not count Sundays. It is a time of penitence, which means feeling sorry for doing wrong things and trying to do better. The week just before Easter Sunday is very important. It is called Holy Week. This week remembers the last week of Jesus' life on earth. Holy Week begins with Palm Sunday. On this day, Christians remember Jesus arriving in Jerusalem. People waved palm branches to welcome him. Thursday in Holy Week is called Maundy Thursday. This day remembers the Last Supper, the final meal Jesus shared with his friends called disciples. It also remembers when Jesus washed his disciples' feet. Friday is called Good Friday. This is a sad day because it remembers the crucifixion when Jesus died on the cross. The next day is Holy Saturday, sometimes called Silent Saturday. It is a quiet day of waiting. Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday are sometimes called the Easter Triduum, which means 3 days. Many churches have a special service late on Saturday night called the Easter Vigil. This service begins the Easter celebration. Eastern Christians also have a special time to prepare for Easter, which they often call Pascha. Their preparation time is called Great Lent. Great Lent starts on a day called Clean Monday. It lasts for 40 days straight, including Sundays. This is different from Lent in the West. During Great Lent, people also focus on prayer and fasting. Great Lent ends on a Friday. The next day is Lazarus Saturday, which remembers Jesus bringing his friend Lazarus back to life. This Saturday marks the end of Great Lent, but people usually continue fasting through the next week. The week after Lazarus Saturday is Holy Week for Eastern Christians too. They remember the same important events as Western Christians. However, they often call the days holy and great. For example, they have Holy and Great Friday. Like in the West, the preparation leads to the celebration of Pascha. Their main Easter service, the Paschal Vigil, often starts late on Holy Saturday night. It includes special prayers and services that celebrate Jesus rising from the dead right at midnight. 7. Easter Day Fun. Easter Sunday is a very happy day for Christians. Many people go to church. Some churches have a special service late on Saturday night called the Easter Vigil. It often starts in the dark and then candles are lit. This light shows that Jesus is alive again. In Orthodox churches, the service starts near midnight. The priest lights a candle and people light their candles from it. They walk around the church 3 times. This remembers the 3 days Jesus was in the tomb. Other churches have sunrise services early on Easter morning. This remembers the women finding the empty tomb early in the morning. During Easter services, Christians often greet each other. One person says, "Christ is risen." The other person answers, "He is risen indeed." Sometimes they add, "Alleluia." Easter eggs are a big part of Easter fun. They are a symbol of new life and the empty tomb where Jesus was buried. Long ago, the first Christians in Mesopotamia colored eggs red. This was to remember the blood of Jesus. Today, people decorate eggs in many colors. In Eastern Orthodox churches, families bring eggs and food to the church. A priest blesses them. Many children enjoy Easter egg hunts. They search for eggs hidden in gardens or houses. This is like searching for the empty tomb. Another game is egg rolling. People roll eggs down a hill. This helps remember the stone that was rolled away from Jesus' tomb. In the United States, the president has an Easter egg roll event for children at the White House every year on Easter Monday. Today, many Easter eggs are not real eggs. They are made of chocolate or plastic. Plastic eggs are often filled with candy like jelly beans. Many people stop eating candy for Lent, the time before Easter. So eating candy eggs on Easter is a special treat. Another famous Easter character is the Easter Bunny. This idea started in Germany. The story says the Easter Bunny brings baskets filled with eggs and candy to children while they sleep. Children leave empty baskets out on Saturday night. In Australia, rabbits are seen as pests, so they have the Easter bilby instead. A bilby is a native Australian animal. Easter is also a time for special foods. Eating lamb is traditional in many countries. For Christians, lamb is a symbol of Jesus. Jesus is called the Lamb of God who was sacrificed. In Italy, a popular lamb dish is called abbacchio. In Greece, people might eat a lamb soup called mageritsa. Hot cross buns are also famous. They are sweet buns with spices and fruit inside. They have a cross shape on top. Traditionally, people ate them on Good Friday. The cross reminds people of Jesus' death, and the spices remind them of the spices used for his burial. In Italy, people also eat a special cake shaped like a dove, called Colomba di Pasqua. In Eastern Orthodox countries like Russia and Ukraine, people eat pascha and kulik. Pascha is a sweet cheese dish, often shaped like a pyramid. Kulik is a rich bread. People take these foods to church to be blessed. 8. Easter now and goodbye. Easter is the most important time for Christians. It is their main festival. It celebrates Jesus coming back to life after he died. This event is called the resurrection. Easter is a happy time. It brings feelings of hope and new life for believers. It is the center of the Christian year. Easter is also important in culture, not just religion. Many countries have public holidays for Easter. This means people do not have to work on those days. In the United Kingdom, Good Friday and Easter Monday are bank holidays. But in Scotland, Easter Monday is not always a bank holiday for everyone. Australia also has public holidays on Good Friday and Easter Monday. New Zealand does too. In Canada, Easter Monday is a holiday for government workers. In the province of Quebec, people get either Good Friday or Easter Monday off work. Countries like Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Italy, and Greece also have Easter public holidays. For example, Italy and the Netherlands have both Easter Sunday and Easter Monday as national holidays. But in the United States, Easter Sunday is not a federal holiday. Many shops might close on Easter Sunday or Monday in different places around the world. But not all people or groups celebrate Easter. Some Christian groups do not. For example, the Religious Society of Friends, also called Quakers, do not celebrate special holidays like Easter. They believe every day is important to God and should be treated like the Lord's Day. Jehovah's Witnesses also do not celebrate Easter. They remember the death of Jesus on a special day, Nisan 14, based on the Jewish calendar. They call this the memorial. They believe the Bible tells them to remember his death, not his resurrection. Some other groups in history, like Puritans, also did not celebrate Easter because they felt it was not written in the Bible. So, Easter today is a mix of things. For Christians, it has a very deep meaning about Jesus' resurrection and the hope of new life. It finishes the serious time of Lent, but Easter also has many popular customs. Things like Easter eggs, egg hunts, and the Easter bunny are famous traditions. Many people, Christians and non-Christians, enjoy these fun parts of Easter. It is a time that brings together strong religious belief and happy popular celebrations. What is your favorite Easter tradition or memory?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.